Welcome to Enoch's Real Mythos, a world where celestial beings fell, Nephilim walked the earth, and the divine order was shattered. In this video we'll uncover the hidden layers of Enoch's ancient writings, tales of forbidden unions, heavenly judgment, and a war that shaped the destiny of all creation. Prepare to see mythology, scripture, and lost history merge into one breathtaking revelation. This isn't just legend, it's the origin story they never told you. The Watchers, fallen angels who shattered divine order. In the shadowed corridors of ancient mythology and apocalyptic literature, few beings inspire as much awe and dread as the Watchers. Those mysterious angels who once stood as divine sentinels but fell into disgrace. Found primarily in the Book of Enoch, the Watchers are portrayed as celestial beings entrusted with observing humanity, only to betray their sacred duty. Their story is not merely about rebellion. It is a cosmic scandal that forever altered the spiritual and physical fabric of the world. The fall of the Watchers marks a pivotal moment where divine order was shattered, and chaos took root. The origin of the Watchers. The term Watchers comes from the Aramaic word, iron, meaning those who watch, or those who are awake. These beings first appear in the Book of Enoch, an ancient Jewish text that is part of the pseudepigrapha, writings attributed to biblical figures but not included in the canonical Bible, except in the Ethiopian Orthodox Church, which considers Enoch scripture. The Book of Enoch describes the Watchers as angels sent by God to observe and guide humanity. According to 1 Enoch 6-16, these angels were stationed on earth to supervise mankind during the antediluvian, pre-flood, era. They were supposed to remain invisible guides, helping without interfering in human affairs. However, as the story goes, the Watchers did the unthinkable. They broke their oath to heaven. The rebellion, descent of the Watchers. The fall of the Watchers begins with a decision, an act of collective defiance. A group of 200 angels, led by Shemhaza, also spelled Samiaza, descended upon Mount Hermon and swore an oath to take human wives and bear children with them. This transgression is described in 1 Enoch 6:2-6, where the angels agree to commit this act together, knowing the divine consequences. Let us all swear an oath and all bind ourselves by mutual imprecations not to abandon this plan but to do this thing. This decision was not a spontaneous temptation but a calculated rebellion. The angels desired not only physical pleasure but power and knowledge, longing to shape humanity in their own image. This lust for domination directly challenged the divine structure of heaven and earth. The birth of the Nephilim, abominations of the earth. The result of the union between the Watchers and human women was the birth of the Nephilim, giant hybrid beings described as mighty and violent, consuming all of Earth's resources. The Book of Enoch 7:2-5 details their terrifying nature. And they became pregnant and they bare great giants, who consumed all the acquisitions of men. And when men could no longer sustain them, the giants turned against them and devoured mankind. These Nephilim were not merely large, they were symbols of corruption, embodying a distortion of God's creation. Their violent nature plunged the earth into bloodshed, famine, and terror. In later traditions, these beings are echoed in the giants of Greek mythology, the titans of lore, and even the monstrous figures in folklore around the world. Forbidden knowledge, the gifts of the Watchers. The rebellion of the Watchers was not limited to physical acts. They also imparted forbidden knowledge to humanity. Each of the Watchers taught specific arts and sciences that were meant to remain hidden. Azazel taught humans the art of warfare, crafting weapons and armor. Kokabel taught astrology. Semjaza taught enchantments and root-cutting, sorcery. Barakul taught the signs of the stars. Penemu taught writing and wisdom. Castaja revealed the secrets of abortion and the use of drugs. These teachings, while appearing as gifts of enlightenment, were considered deeply corrupting. The Book of Enoch views this knowledge as prematurely exposing humanity to powers it was not ready for. It is a theme echoed in many traditions: the theft of fire by Prometheus, the apple from the tree of knowledge, and the Tower of Babel. In each case, forbidden knowledge brings both advancement and downfall. Divine judgment, God responds. The sins of the Watchers, lust, corruption, and the spread of forbidden arts, demanded a divine response. In 1 Enoch 9-10, the archangels Michael, Gabriel, Raphael, and Uriel report the transgressions of the watchers to God. Their plea is one of cosmic urgency. Thou sayest what Azazel hath done, who hath taught all unrighteousness on earth and revealed the eternal secrets. God issues swift and severe judgment. Azazel is bound hand and foot, cast into the desert, a place called Dudiel, and covered with jagged rocks until the final judgment. Shemhaza and his followers are bound in the valleys of the earth for 70 generations. The Nephilim are killed in a great war and by the coming of the great flood. Humanity is partially cleansed by the flood, sparing only Noah and his righteous lineage. This divine intervention seeks to restore balance and seal the gates through which chaos entered. But the scars of this event are said to remain, influencing the fallen world until the end of time. Legacy of the Watchers echoes through time. Though the Book of Enoch was not included in most biblical canons, its influence is significant. The Watchers and their story appear in fragments across various traditions. In Genesis 6 verses 1-4, there is a brief and cryptic reference to sons of God taking daughters of men, and the birth of the Nephilim. Early Jewish mysticism, particularly in Merkabah and Kabbalistic texts, explore angelic hierarchies and celestial transgressions. In Christian theology, some church fathers, like Tertullian and Justin Martyr, accepted the story of the Watchers as historical and theological truth. Islamic tradition refers to two fallen angels, Harut and Marut, sent to test mankind, possibly influenced by the Watchers myth. In modern pop culture, the Watchers have inspired novels, films, and games, from Noah 2014 film, to Supernatural to Neon Genesis Evangelion. The Watchers serve as a prototype for many fallen beings in literature, proud, powerful, and ultimately tragic. Theological and symbolic interpretations. The story of the Watchers can be read through many lenses. Moral allegory, a warning against pride, lust, and the abuse of knowledge. It shows the dangers of crossing divine boundaries for selfish gain. Mythic memory. Some scholars suggest this myth may reflect an ancient memory of divine kings or sages who ruled before the flood, possibly even based on Mesopotamian Apkallu or Sumerian demigods. Cosmic drama. The Watchers introduce a dramatic dualism into theology, where not all angels are obedient, and some act with free will, much like humans. Cultural influence. The myth may reflect ancient anxieties about technological advancement, war, and the corruption of sacred order. The gifts of the Watchers mirror both the rise of civilization and its moral decline. Azazel, the scapegoat and the dark teacher. Of all the Watchers, Azazel stands out. He becomes a central figure in later Jewish traditions, particularly in the Day of Atonement Yom Kippur rituals. In Leviticus 16, a scapegoat is sent into the wilderness to Azazel, symbolically carrying away the sins of the people. Azazel evolves into a dark archetype, sometimes seen as a satanic figure, other times as the patron of sorcery and forbidden arts. His punishment, bound in the wasteland until the final judgment, mirrors the imprisonment of other rebellious angels in texts like 2 Peter 2 verse 4 and Jude 1 verse 6. Final judgment and the restoration of order. Enoch's vision concludes with promises of restoration and final judgment. The Watchers will remain bound until the day of the Lord, when they will be cast into the abyss. The Nephilim, whose spirits became the evil spirits or demons as per Enoch 15:8-10, continue to torment humanity, but their power is limited. This eschatological hope, the ultimate defeat of the fallen angels and the restoration of divine order, remains a central theme in apocalyptic literature. It foreshadows the victory of the Son of Man, the resurrection of the righteous, and the cleansing of creation. Watchers in the modern imagination. The tale of the Watchers is not just a relic of ancient myth, it continues to provoke and inspire. It is a story of guardians who became betrayers, of divine order undone by heavenly beings, and of humanity caught between celestial forces. In an age where the boundaries of science, ethics, and belief continue to be tested, the Watchers remind us of the cost of unrestrained ambition. They symbolize the peril of mixing what is divine with what is profane, of awakening knowledge before its time. Yet they also challenge us to ask, are we watching? Or are we watched? In a world filled with mystery, perhaps the watchers never truly left. They merely changed forms. The Nephilim, giants of earth and harbingers of doom. Few biblical mysteries have intrigued scholars, theologians, and mythologists as much as the Nephilim. These shadowy beings, mentioned only briefly in the Bible, have inspired centuries of speculation. Were they giants? Fallen angels? Hybrid offspring of celestial and earthly beings? In the book of Genesis, they appear suddenly, linked to an ancient time of corruption and violence that preceded the Great Flood. The book of Enoch expands their story dramatically, casting them as monstrous giants and harbingers of divine judgment. This exploration unpacks the origins, identity, role, and ultimate fate of the Nephilim, interpreting them as beings whose presence on Earth signaled a spiritual and moral crisis of cosmic proportions. The biblical origins of the Nephilim. The earliest and most well-known reference to the Nephilim is found in Genesis 6 verses 1 to 4. When human beings began to increase in number on the earth and daughters were born to them, the sons of God saw that the daughters of humans were beautiful, and they married any of them they chose. Then the Lord said, "My spirit will not contend with humans forever, for they are mortal. Their days will be 120 years. The Nephilim were on the earth in those days, and also afterward, when the sons of God went to the daughters of humans and had children by them. They were the heroes of old, men of renown." The word Nephilim is often translated as giants, though its root Hebrew term NPL suggests fallen ones. Their mention is cryptic, neither fully explained nor contextualized. But the surrounding passage paints a picture of divine-human interaction that deeply disturbed the order of creation. These Nephilim were the offspring of the sons of God and daughters of men, an unnatural union that preceded the corruption that led to the Great Flood. 2. Sons of God and the Forbidden Union. Who were the sons of God? 3 major interpretations have emerged. Fallen angels, traditional view. This interpretation, expanded in 1 Enoch, views the sons of God as rebellious angels who descended to earth, lusted after human women, and produced hybrid offspring, the Nephilim. This view was widely accepted by Second Temple Jewish literature and the early church fathers. Royal line of Seth, theological view. Some later Christian and Jewish traditions interpret the sons of God as the godly descendants of Seth, while the daughters of men were the ungodly descendants of Cain. Their intermarriage symbolized a breakdown in moral boundaries. Ancient kings, mythic political view. Another interpretation views the sons of God as ancient warrior kings who claimed divine right and practiced polygamy and oppression, thus giving rise to giants of influence and tyranny. However, the angelic interpretation remains dominant in apocryphal texts like the Book of Enoch, Jubilees, and the Testament of Reuben, and explains the supernatural qualities attributed to the Nephilim. 3. The Nephilim in the Book of Enoch. The Book of Enoch, especially the Book of the Watchers, chapters 1 to 36, gives an expanded mythological account of the Nephilim's origins. According to Enoch, a group of 200 angels, led by Simjaza and Azazel, descended to Mount Hermon and made a pact to take human wives. They taught forbidden knowledge, sorcery, weaponry, cosmetics, astrology, to humanity, corrupting both spirit and society. Their children, the Nephilim or giants, grew to unnatural sizes and devoured everything in sight, animals, humans, and each other. Their violence and bloodshed polluted creation and prompted divine intervention. The giants became so destructive that the cries of earth itself reached heaven. This cosmic crisis triggered a divine judgment. 4. Giants, violence, and the pre-flood world. The Nephilim weren't merely giants in stature. They represented a perversion of divine order. Their existence blurred the lines between the heavenly and earthly, spiritual and physical, holy and profane. As they grew in power and wickedness, they waged wars and oppressed humankind. They consumed resources at a terrifying rate. They introduced chaos into God's creation. They are described in Enoch 7:5. And they began to sin against birds and beasts and reptiles and fish, and to devour one another's flesh and drink the blood. This passage implies cannibalism, hybridization, and desecration of nature itself. Harbingers of divine judgment. Because of the Nephilim and the sin of the Watchers, God declared that creation could no longer be sustained in its current corrupted form. God sent archangels, Michael, Uriel, Raphael, and Gabriel, to bind the Watchers and destroy their offspring. The Nephilim were to be slaughtered in a divine war. Their spirits, however, did not return to heaven or the underworld. Instead, they became evil spirits or unclean spirits, roaming the earth to torment humanity. These are considered the origin of demons in Enochian cosmology. Thus, the Nephilim served as a prelude to the flood. Their presence was both a symptom and cause of a world gone wrong. The deluge became an act of cleansing. 6. Post-flood Nephilim, survivors or legacy. Genesis 6 verse 4 contains a curious phrase. The Nephilim were on the earth in those days, and also afterward. This suggests their reappearance after the flood, which leads to the book of Numbers 13:33, when Israelite spies report. We seemed like grasshoppers in our own eyes and we looked the same to them. The Anakim, Rephaim, and other giants described in Canaanite territory may have been descendants or echoes of the Nephilim. Were they literal survivors? Or were the Israelites using mythic language to describe intimidating enemies? Traditions vary. Some apocryphal texts suggest a few Nephilim survived the flood, perhaps through the wives of Noah's sons or by supernatural means. Others argue the term Nephilim evolved into a generic label for tyrants or powerful warriors. Nevertheless, the fear of giants persisted in ancient lore, particularly in battles involving David and Goliath, or Israelite conquests of Canaan. 7. Nephilim in ancient myth and global traditions. The idea of giant hybrid beings is not unique to the Bible. Across world mythologies, similar tales abound. Greek mythology, the Titans and Gigantes were primal beings who rebelled against the gods. Mesopotamian epics, Gilgamesh himself is described as 2/3 divine, 1/3 human. Norse myth, the Jotnar giants, opposed the gods and foretold Ragnarok. Native American legends, tribes tell of red-haired giants who warred with the ancestors. Hinduism, the Asuras and Rakshasas were powerful, semi-divine beings who defied cosmic order. These parallels suggest a global memory, or mythic archetype, of beings who disrupt divine order and bring catastrophe. The Nephilim fit squarely within this mythological pattern. 8. Theological implications. The story of the Nephilim raises uncomfortable theological questions. Why would God allow angels to interfere so drastically with humanity? Was creation truly so fragile that a few rogue beings could nearly destroy it? Are demons truly the souls of dead giants? These narratives underscore a central theme: boundaries matter. The Nephilim represent a breakdown of cosmic boundaries, between heaven and earth, spiritual and physical, divine and mortal. Their creation was a sin against nature itself, prompting God to reset creation through the flood. Modern theology often downplays these stories as mythology or allegory, but within the ancient worldview they were deadly serious. 9. Modern fascination and interpretations. Today, the Nephilim have become icons in conspiracy theories, fringe archaeology, science fiction, and pop culture. Ancient aliens theory. Some claim the Nephilim were extraterrestrials mistaken for gods. Nephilim DNA theories. Others believe Nephilim genes exist today, hidden in elites or giants of old. Movies, books, and games. Nephilim appear as anti-heroes, hybrid warriors, or tragic figures. Yet, beyond the sensationalism lies a deeper archetype, the Nephilim as warnings. Their story is a cautionary tale of pride, corruption, and the consequences of overstepping divine limits. Harbingers of doom. The Nephilim were not just giants of stature, they were giants of sin, pride, and defiance. They corrupted the earth, violated divine law, and triggered the most catastrophic judgment in biblical history. But their story is more than ancient myth. It's a reflection of humanity's ongoing temptation to merge the forbidden with the sacred, the spiritual with the carnal. The Nephilim serve as both monsters and mirrors, forcing us to confront the consequences of unchecked power and hybrid ambition. They are, in the end, harbingers, not just of doom in an ancient world, but warnings for every age that seeks to play God without divine wisdom. Thank you for joining us on this journey through Enoch's real mythos, where ancient giants walked the earth, divine laws were shattered, and a cosmic war forever altered the course of creation. If this deeper look into hidden truths and forbidden histories intrigued you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments below. What part of Enoch's mythos do you want us to explore next? Until then, keep questioning, keep seeking, and remember, the stories buried in ancient texts might just hold the keys to understanding our true origins. See you in the next revelation.